Welcome back, beautiful family. I'm here hanging out with my toots out in Bend. We got some projects here we're managing, and I just want to do an update with you guys, tell you where we're at, tell you what we've been doing, and yeah, it's been a while since I've done any updates, and I'd love to just. I've been sending almost the same message to so many friends, trying to explain where we've been. There she is, the love of my life. Where we've been, what we've been up to, and it's kind of been a pretty cool journey. And I think I've made some Christianity as a verb, and it's not just an adjective; it's an action. Love in action, compassion is, like James mentions. Show me your works by your faith or with your deeds. And so I felt like, if God's in us, and that He is, then why aren't we recklessly conquering the world in the spiritual realm, in the natural realm, in the business arenas? And I heard something today that kind of reminded me that if we feel like we're lacking something or we don't have enough of it, we're always seeking for it, and that's what's keeping us, at bay. But if we realize that we have everything we need, it's who we are, we're locked and loaded. When Jesus said it's finished on the cross, He meant it. He didn't joke or kid. When He made us joint heirs, He gave us everything, we have it, then what are we waiting for? And then too many times, I don't want to talk about other people and their experiences yet. I'll just share my own. It's like I kept waiting for something to happen or waiting for the Spirit to move or give me a word. And then He's given me 10,000 words and I don't do anything. So in the end, it's not the word we're looking for. I think in the end, as we move and co-labor with the Lord, things happen and we operate from rest because we know He's in us. We know He's conquering within us everything that we need.
Or maybe it's looking for more details.
Sure, I guess we are looking for details, but I think the details are found on the journey. Because, like, we want a whole game plan. I remember a teacher friend of mine was like, "Well, Lord, what's my 401k plan going to be if I quit this work business? And do I have vacation days? Do I have sick leave? Can I call in sick and not preach on Sundays? Like we want everything to be worked out before we try and step out. And I feel like stepping out and trying is more act of faith and trust in God that He's in you and He's enough than like sitting around waiting for God to tell you something and praying about it. And I'd rather you try and mess up and fail and succeed and figure it out instead of doing absolutely nothing and say, well, praying is something. I'll just keep praying. And it's like, sure, but you got to eventually move. And there has to be a love response when you see people and things where you want to do something. And I realize when we change our minds and our perspective, you can't force people to change their minds. You can't make anybody see anything different, even if you can see the problem clearly and tell them. They just don't want to do anything about it, no matter how many times you tell them. So the best way I see it in my life is I can't tell people what to do. I'm just going to live my life and let that preach and let that be an example of a life sold out, a life given to God and in the service to the greater, I guess, good of humanity, whatever that looks like. And I know everyone has their, logic. Some people think, really wicked things and they think that's for the greater good. So everyone has their own conscience that they have to follow and figure out. So I can't be your conscience. I can't tell you what to do. I can just encourage you to try things and do things and move. And I don't know. I just got this new boldness, this new excitement. So in my life so far, started a contracting company back in December. My wife really encouraged me to do so because I've known that market. I understand it. I've done it for many years, and it's not my passion. Well, I don't want to do it if it's not my passion. And I get it. Not everything's your passion. I'd hang out with people who, multimillionaires, and their logic is like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. I'm trying to do my passion. I'm trying to start my charity. I wanted to do a charity. and just help for free. And it's like, well, where are you going to get the funds to run the charity? You're like, I don't know. God will figure it out, you know? And it's like, we have all these pie in the sky ideas, but they don't make sense. And I heard a phrase from my hustler buddy. He says, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make dollars. So it has to make sense, you know? It has to do something, but our ideas and what God leads us to makes a lot of sense, you know, and it does create wealth and it does create opportunity and it does help people and people see it and they want to join. But too many times we don't do anything and then we're waiting for something magical to happen and then nothing happens. And then once in a while we hear that story of somebody who got something and we bank on that instead of using our faith to start a business. God told me this phrase one time. You want to change the world? Start a business. And I'm like, no, God, I want to change the world. I want to save souls. I want to help people. He who saves souls is wise. But who's going to fund you? I don't know. The Ravens will have some money in their beak, you know, and they'll, you know, paw, and they'll give me some money. And we kind of get these mindsets that so warps us. So started, huh?
They can.
And they can. But I always see it as an exception to the rule of God's given us so much and we use so little. And I've heard of people, if they needed food, they manifest it. If they need money, they manifest it. This one guy reaches out his hand to pay the bill and there's nothing in his hand. No one sees it. But as soon as he reaches out his hand to the lady who's coming to collect the money, she reaches out and she takes from his hand the correct amount of money. Like, she could see the money that she needed and whatever was in her heart. I wish they would give me a good tip and pay for their food. And then whatever it was, she reaches in and grabs it out of his hand and she calls it like good and she's happy. And he's just reaching out his hand like, take what you need, you know? And I love that. When I hear that and I'm like, wow, these are great stories. And I'm, you know, that's my heart to manifest anything anyone needs at any time. You know, whatever people came to Jesus for, they got it, you know? So that's my heart. But the cool part is, along the way, what are we going to do? We're going to create things. We're going to create businesses. We're going to create industries. We're going to create... Because when you go to poor places where people are really desperate, giving them money never fixes hardly anything. Yeah, you gave them some food. You gave them some hope to make it through a tough time. And I get it, you know. And we want to help the poor and feed the hungry. That's all in the Word. That's all in our hearts. But what's best is if we came in with business, with industry, with, you know, some industrialism where we can actually move and help that culture, find out what they have, inventory the nations, and be able to do something so amazing. And yeah, so I'm also working on another business, started a Japan trade kind of business, Paul Cameron Consulting. So if you need some consulting, feel free. I will charge you. And so we're trying to get that trade going with Japan and stuff like that. It took a while to work on a proposal and a business plan, but we'd love to work with Japan. And you see, I try to go to Japan and follow the Lord to the best of my abilities and hear Him and go there. And people were so kind and generous to hear the Lord and to, you know, sow into our lives. And we're so blessed by all our friends. It just really made us cry and melted our hearts. But are they going to fund us for life, or are they going to expect us to do something? You know, and eventually it's like, what are you going to do with it? And we started businesses and created, you know, millions of dollars of wealth from whatever investments we've made in Japan. So that was a blessing. And I was like, well, how much did we really make with all the wisdom and investing and ideas? How much did we really make? And I thought it'd be a few million at least. And then when I checked, yeah, it was 2.2. And I was like, well, 2.2 is not bad for a couple years of love, investment into businesses and friends and ideas and things God gave us. So we got to create and help. And God told us the investment we're doing is into people. It's not like that's the return I put in my pocket at the end of the day. It's what we get to create and make. And money's very fleeting, you know, it comes and goes. And I so love the friendships that we've got to build over these years with you guys and other people. We're also working on another business to create a nursing home for people who are elderly and they need help. And it was in my heart to do that in Japan. That was one of the areas I wanted to tackle, was to create that. But I didn't have the, you know, the knowledge. And I'm calling people and they're telling me, well, you need a nurse, you need skills, You need to know the laws and rules in Japan. And I was like, well, I don't know who to turn to. But as we came back home, uh, that eventually came back on my heart and my mind to do that. And then I started finding friends, and I found wealth and investors and somebody who's built many of those in the past, and now we're working together to create something that can really help people and generate a healthy profit so that we can build more and generate healthy profit and build more and just keep helping people and keep generating wealth. Well, why do you need the money? It's like, so I can make more money. Well, then why do you need more money? So I can multiply it and make more. Because eventually, when it comes to creating wealth and helping people, there's too many needs. I have a beautiful friend out there laying down her life out in Ukraine, and it just hurts my heart to see. I want to do so much good and I'm helping so many people, but there's always a lack of funds. I could always use more. There's so many people here to help. And it's in our heart to help, but it's just like we can post about it, we can call our friends and investors and ask for cash all the time. But man, wouldn't it be great to be able to just fund those loudmouths, to keep preaching that gospel, to keep investing into those beautiful hearts that want to just keep sharing the gospel? Just kindred spirits is what I call them, just
running orphanages.
yeah, orphanages, all these beautiful things that we'd love to invest in. It's going to take some wisdom, some creativity, some funding, some giving, whatever it takes. I just don't want to be on that receiving end of having to beg and ask. And it just, my wife, when she was in South Africa trying to do some stuff with YWAM, and she said most of the time she spent just trying to raise money and to fund herself to stay there.
Not just me, but everybody.
A lot of people, they need to raise money to live there. They don't give them money to stay there. Any mission organization, it's like, I hope you have cash because I'm not going to fund you to live here. And then Christians expect God to do it somehow. And I feel like that's such an error where we bank so hard that God better provide. And if he doesn't, then what? He's a failure? How did he fail you? He gave you his son. He provided everything, gave you wisdom, gave you a spirit. You're lacking nothing. You're just not doing anything with what he gave you. You're jumping back into fear and receding into doing nothing, when I feel like when God's in us, we should literally start 1 billion businesses and just conquer. And if it doesn't work out somewhere, then try again. But too many times we're afraid to take that first step, and we don't want to admit it. Ego still has a place in our life. It tries to rule our life. We don't want people to know that we failed. And I told my friend, you can say I've never failed and I have a 100% streak of never failing, but I'm also going to say, but you never tried. And I might have a streak of failing, but at least I was right 51% of the time, so I'm ahead. I kept trying. I never stopped, and that's what I encourage all my friends to do, is try and do something. And I know it's scary. You might not know everything, but you do see the step ahead of you. What do you see the next step being? And then when you take that step, eventually, after you settle down, you might start seeing the next step. So I feel like the steps will be there as we move. But if we do not move at all, and we wonder what our steps are. I have a friend trying to start a business, and it's like, well, what do I do? And I was like, well, did you register the business and the name? Well, yes. I said, perfect. That was the first step. Great. Do you have a business plan? Do you have, how are you going to advertise? Or do you have a business web page, with Facebook or Instagram? What are you doing? Do you have, how are you going to get the supplies? Where are your designs? Have you been drawing? And I realized what we do outside of our normal daily tasks is what's going to move us forward, And this one thing I was listening to, Benjamin Franklin's thing on finances, he mentions, there is no such thing as rest and do nothing, period. He says you work, and then when you're not working, he calls it leisure. But you know what you do in your leisure? You do and you work on all the hobbies that you wish you could do or you have the time to. So you're still working, but now you're doing it in a place of rest, of things you enjoy. So I feel like find those leisure activities when you're working. So when you're done working, you can just enjoy and create and draw and then ask people. And there's so many programs and classes that help you build, and there's so many free things out there in the world. You just have to try and start looking and start asking questions. And if you have a dream, tell people about it and see if that doesn't pull more of the answer to what you're looking for.
That's why we're looking into dream nights.
So we're looking into doing this thing called Dream Nights, where we can help people and entrepreneurs if they have ideas in their heart and things that they want to do, and they're like, this is what I want to do, but I don't know what my next step is. Then we can connect them with programs. We can connect them with other people who are on the same phase, or they're on the next phase, so they can help them with that, the steps, because it's on purpose. I mean, the plan of God is as sovereign as God himself, where the path is laid out before you. You just need to take the steps. It's not a mystery. It's not something we never know and will never figure out. So it's an on-purpose path to the victory, as well as the victory was sovereign and on purpose for us as well. So guys, you can do it. You can get there. We love you. We support you. And just keep loving life and enjoying people and loving Jesus, and just enjoy it. We'll see you again.